Imagine someone tells you the only way to feed your family, the only escape from starvation, is to surgically remove your ability to have children. Forever. Sounds insane, right? But here's what makes it even more unsettling. This didn't happen in some forgotten backwater civilization. This happened inside one of the most sophisticated empires in human history. The same culture that invented gunpowder, engineered the Great Wall, and mastered silk production. That civilization systematically demanded that its most loyal servants surgically sever their own capacity for reproduction. Behind the crimson walls of the Forbidden City, absolute power produced history's most disturbing paradox. The eunuch, neither whole man nor wandering ghost, neither free citizen nor common slave. And yet, century after century, these men held the pulse of the most powerful empire on earth in the palms of their hands. This isn't just a story about a surgical procedure. This is a story about dark psychology, extreme poverty, and the terrifying price of standing at the peak of power. Welcome to Charlie's History. Today, we tear back the golden veil of the Forbidden City and expose the chilling truth behind the shadow emperors. Forget everything you think you know about how eunuchs entered the palace. Forget prisoners of war. Forget political punishment. In imperial China, for tens of thousands of boys, castration was not a court's verdict. It was a job application. In 15th century China, a peasant family's entire annual income amounted to roughly 5 taels of silver, less than $800 in today's purchasing power. A newly appointed palace eunuch, by contrast, started at 10 taels per month. Factor in imperial gifts, commissions, and the bribes that flowed through the palace like water, and a senior eunuch earning over 1,000 taels per year was nothing unusual. That's a gap of 125 to 1. Picture a family that has already stripped bark from trees to survive. A father who knows, with absolute certainty, that his household will not endure another winter. And then, an option appears. A horrifying, irreversible option. Possibly the only exit from starvation. The procedure took place in unlicensed back rooms, performed by underground surgeons known as knife men. No anesthesia, no sterile tools. And within seconds, everything was removed, clean and permanent. The mortality rate approached 40%. Nearly half of these boys died on those crude tables, or in the days that followed from infection. But for desperate families, this was a calculated gamble. Because if the boy survived, he was no longer a farmer's son. He was the emperor's servant. And that meant power and wealth that ordinary people could never dream of accumulating in a lifetime. But here is the detail in this story that refuses to leave you. What was removed was never discarded. It was carefully wrapped, sealed inside a porcelain jar. That jar was then hung from the rafters of a dedicated storage room. They called it the precious, and it was treated as exactly that. Why? Because in Confucian society, a person who died with an incomplete body could not find peace in the afterlife. The precious was a eunuch's ticket back to wholeness, a deposit waiting to be reclaimed in death, so he could enter the next life as he had entered this one. It was the last scrap of dignity the system had stolen from him. He guarded it with everything he had. And this brings us to the most fundamental paradox of all. How did men the empire considered incomplete end up controlling the empire itself? The answer is surprisingly simple: trust. The emperor trusted eunuchs for one reason, and one reason only. They had no sons. No sons meant no dynasty. No dynasty meant no rival bloodline. In a court where every general, every minister, every nobleman was quietly building his family's legacy, eunuchs were the only men biologically incapable of replacing the emperor. In the coldest terms possible, they were the perfect tool. This made them indispensable. Because of their physical status, eunuchs were the only adult males permitted to move freely through the inner court, the living quarters of the emperor, his empress, and his concubines. They were present for every whispered conversation, every private audience. Every moment the emperor was at his most vulnerable. Think about what that meant. You are China's most powerful military general, commanding 300,000 troops. You need to submit a memorial, a matter of war and survival. To do so, you must hand that document to the man responsible for emptying the emperor's chamber pot. That man now decides whether your memorial reaches the throne or simply disappears. He controlled everything the emperor read, everything he heard, everything he believed about the world beyond those red walls. Information is power, and the eunuchs controlled the pipeline. Power without dignity is a dangerous thing. For centuries, eunuchs had been given authority while being systematically stripped of respect. Confucian society viewed them as incomplete. Scholars sneered at them. Officials treated them as glorified servants. Their higher voices, their beardless faces, their inability to carry on a family line. Every single day was a living reminder of everything they had lost. So when certain eunuchs finally seized real power, they wielded it with breathtaking efficiency. The Ming dynasty produced something unprecedented: the Eastern Depot, a secret police organization built by eunuchs, run entirely by eunuchs. This was not palace gossip or court intrigue. This was a nationwide intelligence network operating in darkness, answering to no court, no minister, no law. Their agents moved through cities and villages after midnight. They extracted confessions through torture. They could destroy an official's entire career on the strength of a single whisper. And the authority backing all of it was the emperor's trust. A trust that exceeded what he extended to any other human being on earth. The apex of this power was a man named Wei Zhongxian. In the early 17th century, Wei became, in practical terms, the shadow emperor of China. He controlled appointments, military deployments, and every major court decision. Shrines were built in his honor across the empire, while the actual emperor existed as little more than ceremonial decoration. The empire that was built on suppressing its own servants had created a monster dressed in a servant's robes. In the grand theater of history, the eunuchs stand as the ultimate irony. An empire that demanded the physical sacrifice of its servants in order to protect the purity of the imperial bloodline ultimately handed those same servants the keys to everything it had built. They were broken to be controlled. They used that brokenness to become uncontrollable. The Forbidden City kept many secrets. But perhaps its deepest secret was this: the men with the least to lose were always the most dangerous ones inside it.